Those are an all-time favorite in my house. And as you can see, this recipe is very worn. Lots of notes in there about ovens that we no longer use, but hey, the notes are there for later use. Things are scratched out and redone. So you're going to start with 2 packets of rapid rise yeast. This is a very simple recipe. Anybody can make this, requires no crazy tools or knowledge of baking. It's just follow the instructions and go with your gut. So once you get those in there, you're going to add your warm water. And I do have the full recipe in the description below. And you're going to let that rise for about 5 minutes. You give it a quick stir with a wooden spoon, come back, and you'll see those little bubbles that are kind of laying across the top. That's what you want. Then I've got my flour already in a bowl that I'm adding my granulated sugar and a little bit of salt. And those are your dry ingredients that are going to go on top of that yeast mixture. Now, I just have a pastry blender. You do not have to use this. You can use a fork, you can use a whisk, whatever your heart desires. But then I'm going to start adding in my softened, unsalted butter. I use unsalted. And again, I'll have all of the recipe and ingredients and measurements all in the description below. But I'm dumping all of that softened butter in there. You're going to need a quick toss with a wooden spoon, and then I'll go back in with a pastry blender. But again, you don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to distribute the butter as evenly as possible. You can totally use your hands to do this. And as you'll see shortly, I actually do get in there with my hands. So I blend it slightly. You want the butter to turn into like tiny little pea-sized amounts. It's not going to be super obvious, but it is in there. And then I'm going to dump this in with my yeast water mixture. Now, the mistake I made when I made this was I forgot to add the eggs in to my yeast mixture. So I'm adding them now. Normally, I would say add those eggs into your yeast water mixture with a fork and whisk them in before you add your dry ingredients. I forgot to do it, but as you're going to find out, it makes no difference. It turns out just fine. That is the beauty of this recipe. It's very simple and very forgiving. So I'm just folding this in all together with a wooden spoon, trying to get in there as much as possible, but I am going to go in with my hands to really make sure all the ingredients are combined. This creates a very tacky, sticky dough. That's what it's supposed to be. So don't get worried. Don't keep adding flour to make it easier to manage. Just do the best you can with your hands because you want to incorporate that yeast into every bit of the flour. Also the salt and eggs, you want to get it all incorporated. Don't be afraid to get dirty. It's okay. I do sprinkle a little flour on right now just to get the rest of it off my hands and to give it more like a dough-like texture and feel here. I'm doing a few quick folds just to get it off the bottom of the bowl, but it's going to be a very shaggy dough. It's not going to be beautiful and shiny. This is going to be a little sticky, a little shaggy. And then I'm going to sit and let this rise. After I wash my hands, of course, I do add some plastic wrap to the bowl, and then it's going to sit. You don't have to put it in a super warm place, but you don't want to put it in front of your air conditioning unit either. I usually just set mine on top of the cooktop until I'm ready to use it. So while that's sitting there, I am going to go ahead and make a filling. And this is a mixture of dark brown sugar, cinnamon, and again, more unsalted, softened butter. And I go in with a fork and then I realize it's not going to work that way. Back again with my hands. Your hands will help the butter get a little softer if it's not quite soft enough yet. And this does not have to be perfect. You're just kind of working it into the brown sugar and cinnamon the best of your ability. It's going to make a huge mess. This is probably something your kids would enjoy. It doesn't have to be super perfect. I'm just trying to get it mashed together as well as possible so that when I go to add it to the dough, it's a lot easier to spread out and get an even coat across the entire dough mixture. So once you get your hands cleaned off, as you can see, it's really, really messy. You're going to start rolling out your dough. And the dough, again, it is a very kind of sticky, and see how it looks kind of bumpy on top? That's what you want. So I'm going to just kind of pull that away from the sides. And as you can see, it's already sticking to my fingers a little bit. But it is a lot easier to manage than it was before. And then you're going to put that on a floured surface. I like that Pampered Chef pastry mat you see me using there. I just think it's wonderful. I like that it has measurements on it, even though I'm going to use the measurements. It's good that they're there in case they're needed. And I do knead this for about 3 or 4 minutes with my hands to make it more manageable. So that's really just getting a little bit of the flour off the board onto the dough so that you can roll it out with a rolling pin and not have it stick to everything. And it just helps to bind it a little bit more too. So you will get a prettier, smoother dough after kneading it for a few minutes. So once I get that out, I do like to cut mine in half. And this is a very big, large, I guess you would say, ball of dough. And so if you try to roll this out to a rectangle, it's going to roll out too thick just because it's going to be so much bigger than your mat. It's going to be hard to manage. So I do cut it in half, set half of it over on the side, and then I roll out that other half of the dough to add my filling to. This makes 24 cinnamon rolls. And so I've got my half sheet cake pan, which is what I use to bake mine in. And I've got that buttered, or you can just spray it with baking spray. Either will work. And then I like a wooden rolling pin, but you can use whichever one you want. So your goal here is to get this into somewhat of a oblong rectangular style shape dough, so that you do have somewhat of an even amount on each cinnamon roll as far as dough to filling ratio. So first I'm just flattening it out the best I can. It's more of a circle right now. And then I start pulling to the corners to try to create more of a rectangle. It's not going to be a rectangle as in have sharp corners, but it is longer than it is tall, if that makes any sense. So maybe more of an oval. A rounded rectangle is the best of my description though. So then I've got some melted butter, and I'm just using a pastry brush to brush that all over the dough. And that's just so that the powdered sugar, or not powdered sugar, sorry, the brown sugar and cinnamon mixture sticks to all that surface. And there's what I made earlier. Now, because this is only half the dough, I don't want to dump it all on. So I use an ice cream scoop to take out approximately half of that filling and just place it evenly across the dough. You don't have to do that. You can just get a spoon and throw some on there. My video cut out there because my phone died. But basically, I just used my hands to spread that out after I got it on there with the ice cream scoop. And then I rolled it up, doing a quick pinch there. And then once I have it all rolled, I do scrunch it back together a little bit because I want 12 decent sized cinnamon rolls. I don't want them to be too flat. Again, I'm using a bench scraper. I'm not measuring this, but if you would like to measure so you get exactly 12, go for it. But you should get 12 cinnamon rolls per roll since you did cut your dough in half. And so in a half sheet pan, you can fit 24 perfectly. So 4 across. And it's just a really easy, as you can see, a nice shaggy dough, comes together really easily, doesn't take all day to rise. It really is a great recipe. So, and as you can also see that my dogs keep coming into the video, hoping that there are crumbs on the ground, and there are not. But this is like the perfect amount of filling, I feel like. I've made cinnamon rolls in the past, and the filling was like just falling out everywhere and was too much. And I've also had cinnamon rolls at other places where it was so much dough that the filling was almost, what's the point, you know? So this really, I like the ratio of cinnamon roll versus filling on this recipe. So once you've got them in this pan, you're going to cover that again with plastic wrap and let it rise. I think it's about 45 minutes. This is as I'm putting them into the oven. So this is after they've risen for 45 minutes. And this is them as they're coming out. So I was trying to get a little close there, but you can't really see, but that filling that has come out of the rolls on the edge is bubbling a little bit, which is what you want. Now, the icing I use is like a cream cheese portable icing. You can use whatever icing you like. I do use powdered sugar, cream cheese, vanilla, and milk. That's it. And you can make it the consistency you want or as sweet as you want. But they turn out so good and yummy. I really hope you love these.